Okay, guys. Hey, this is Darn42. So this is like my third time making this tutorial, fourth time actually. So I'm just gonna be really quick about this. So first off, uh, controls. Middle mouse button is pan. Alt middle mouse button is rotate. Scroll is zoom. Click is select, move, etc. So Q, the hotkeys for selecting. Q is select, just no moving or anything. W is move. You can put your mouse over one of these gizmos or whatever to move it in two directions. You can right click on any of these arrows to set it to 0. This applies for every arrow. E is rotate. Mine is moving in 5-degree increments because I have angle snaps on. Make sure you do that. Makes it much easier. Rotate and scale is R. Follows a pattern. Make sure you try and keep everything at 100 if you can. This is better for going in sub-object mode. G is turn off the grid, and I have my brackets turn off here. You can turn those on and off with J, and I have my lines here turned on. You can turn those on or off with F4. F3 is wireframe. F2 changes the selection color. Keep it how it is. So let's do this. 300 feet each, just because, and want length segments and everything to be 3. So you can either convert it to an editable poly. Alright, I should probably tell you this. This is going to be a beginner's tutorial on just how to use the edit poly and an editable poly interface, and what everything does, I guess. But this is going to be kind of expedited because I'm frustrated, but I've been requested to make this. So let's start off with this. There's 5 selection modes. The hotkeys for these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's element, which selects the entire thing. Polygon, just one single polygon, which is denoted by these grid lines, anything that's contained within it. Border selects any polygon that's been deleted with the delete key, just FYI. Select that. Edge selection, all the edges, and vertex, the vertices. So let's start with these things. So there's something called stack selection. This is a stack. Whenever you add something from this edit modifying tab rollout, it adds it on top of the stack, which is a really nice thing to have. So if I add an edit poly on top of this, if I wanted to select, say, if I turn off this show end result, it'll change what I see. If I see all the way up through the stack, because right now this has nothing selected. If I go through this, there's nothing selected. Anyways, so let's select all these and say I want to, actually let me just do this now. I can select these in a much more efficient way. This is angle selection. Any angle that's below 45 degrees will not be selected. Voila. So I select that, and let's say I want to bring this, I want to select it at the top. So I just click use stack selection. I can't change the selection now, but it selects that, or I can use get stack selection. That just gets it for me, and I can change it however I want. By vertex, select a vertex, and it does all the adjacent. Ignore back facing. See these back faces. If the bright red means it is front face. This is back face. Back faces don't render unless in the render settings, which is F10. You explicitly say so. I forget exactly. It's right here. If you say force two-sided, it'll render two-sided, whatever. These are more selection things. Grow selects every adjacent polygon. Shrink does the opposite. But if I grow all the way around and then shrink, it's not going to shrink anything. But if I grow all the way to almost all the way around, see there's that, shrinks pretty well. But it basically has to have some way of knowing how to get back to 0 if you want to shrink. Like say if I did all this, it's going to shrink. Not going to have anything, but this is going to be the final result. It shrinks down. No adjacent. There's no non-adjacent. Anyway, so let's go to the rollouts. There's an edit polygons, which is or edit border or edit element or edit elements or edit edge or edit vertices, whatever. But those are just the specifics. But there's always going to be an edit geometry. This allows you to create just extra planes just out of nowhere. Right click, you can get rid of that. And right click again, we'll get rid of any selection you have, like as in blue. If you have a blue thing, right click, gets rid of it. Collapse, well, I'll get to that in a bit. So if you select a polygon, this is a really nice trick. You can drag in one of these directions and hold shift and it clones it for you. This works also for non-sub-object modes. And you can do either to object or to element. Let's do object so I can teach you these things. Actually, whatever. So you can attach this object either by going here. This is good if you have very few objects in your scene, you want to attach all of them. You can hide objects and it won't show up in that window either. So you can have just a bunch of objects, hide all but a few, and attach all of the objects that you didn't hide. You attach this here, voila. And you can detach it also. You can select it by element, which selects all the polygons, whatever. And then you can detach it. Right now I think I have it detached as clone, so this creates a clone as well as detaching it, so I have an extra object. It's like the drag shift, except for there's no movement. Detached element means it stays in the element, but it's no longer connected. This is already no longer connected to anything, so I'm just going to do object, delete it. So I'm going to show you the rest of these in a bit. Let's go to Polygon mode. Let's start with that. So extrude, you probably know what this is. Extrude, it makes geometry. Bam. Really easy. Outline, it scales it in a unique way. So if you have like an L here, extrude that. If you outline it, it'll be very very uniform and predictable. But if you scale it, it just scales everything, and it doesn't just make the polygon smaller, but whatever. Inset is outline except for creates geometry within the plane and doesn't deform it at all. So see that? It's very nice. You can like extrude stuff, whatever. Or you can do something called bevel, which is extrude and inset extrude and outline combined, which is very nice to work with. You can do this, whatever. Rar. Got this funky little L going. I'm going to mirror this with a copy, just for my next demonstration, and I'm going to attach it to this. Voila. And I'm going to use the next tool. But yeah, also, if you see these on a mirrored thing, render it out, see if it goes blank. If it doesn't, then it's fine. Mirror, for some reason, unless, guessing it's, I'm not sure why it does that, but it just kind of like, it bugs me because if I mirror something, I think it's flipped. This is the wrong side facing out. If you could do this, but then it wouldn't render anymore, even though you'd think that would be the opposite. Though for some reason this is rendering false. So let's flip this, turn it inside out. So now this just makes no sense. It's really confusing. I don't like it. But oh well. Let's move on. If I extrude, if you move up and it goes out and down and goes in, then it's the right side facing out. So let's select all these polygons and do this next one, which is bridge. If you have an equal number of edges on each side, you can bridge the polygons together. It's really annoying if you try and do it without. It ends up with some nasty stuff. Like, see how it comes in and just a lot of smoothing errors and everything gets messed up. Don't do that. Make sure you have all that you need to do that. Flip, we already did that. Hinge from edge. So, I'm gonna select these three. I always do this one in the rollout because it can get really confusing. So you select an edge and it uses that edge as an axis on which to rotate. And so if I and you can increase the segments and the angle and whatever. And that's really it's a really nice tool. Extrude along spline, I'm not really going to show you that because I don't like it. It's just kind of really hard to use and really unpredictable. And so it looks like my edge, these two, is not perfect. Guess. Alright, because I beveled this out, it's not going to be perfect, but oh well. If you're going to do multiple things, make sure that you do it in a way that it won't overlap. Just beware. Edit triangulation. This is, oh whoops. Edit triangulation, this is probably something you won't need to do. But say you have some triangles you don't like, you can click on one vertex, go to the other. No, this is how Max subdivides geometry. It does it in triangles. So if you ever get some weird, like, artifacty looking thing where, say, I'm just gonna try this out. This is chamfer. If you chamfer vertice, it does this. Say, see how that's two triangles. I wanted to edit triangle. Good, click here, drag here, and see how it changes the triangle. Very nice, very nice. But that only does that when it's polygons and it can't really decide where it is. You can add triangles just with connect and vertice mode, whatever. Retriangulate does that, and turn just flips the direction of the triangles. Really self-explanatory. Now let's go to vertex. Maybe to show you chamfer. It's bad on edges like this, but when it's completely concave, it works wonders. It's just a really nice thing. Or if it's not on an edge, you just want something like that to maybe extrude down into, I don't know. It's very nice. It's a good way to create holes. You might, if you care, you might end up having to create some geometry to make this into quads again, which would be just like loops around here. I didn't show you loop selection yet, did I? So the reason to work in quads, if you can, is this. So if you have all quads, you click loop. It goes until it meets the nearest intersection that is an n-gon, anything that's not a quad, which has 4 vertices and 4 edges, or has 5 edges going into 1 vertice, and it won't do that because it doesn't know what path to take. So if that happens, just go to the next, loop it around, see it stops at that, so we can just select those manually. It's just a really easy way to select it. This is a good time to do create shape. You can either do smooth or linear, and that creates a shape based on your edge selection in a spline, which can be really, really useful for a lot of things. I like it. So now let's go back here. So there's break. You can break a vertice, and it creates it into makes one for every edge going into it. Really useful. Well, not really useful, but it's pretty useful. You can weld those back together using weld. You can change the threshold to see how far it goes. Somehow I'm increasing the number of vertices, which doesn't make any sense. Just ignore that. It's not real. We can extrude these. Going horizontally changes the width, and this changes the height. Really like that. You can chamfer this down, creates a vertice and kinda like smooths it out, softer edges. Removing vertices. Say you did this, and then you did collapse, which creates a vertice based on all of the polygon that you have selected, and you want to remove that actually, because you didn't want to do that. Just hit remove or control backspace is the hotkey for that. Target weld does the same thing as weld. It just moves the vertice to where you want it. Click on one and it brings it over. Oh geez, brings it over. Connect two vertices on the same polygon. Connects them. Move isolated vertices and this one. They're pretty useless. Now let's work on slice plane. I like slice plane. So this creates a plane, and as you can see, it goes all the way down here. It affects the entire model, but it just is one representation of the plane. You can scale it up, but you don't really need to. You can see it. You can rotate it, whatever. You move it around, and then if you slice, hit the slice button, it bakes that on. You can only really do this in edge or vertex mode. In polygon mode, you have to select the polygons to actually slice them, and so that makes it less efficient, I guess. You can't right-click out of this one though. You have to select, reselect. Quick slice is the same thing, except for it creates it along whatever this is, and in your viewport angle. So if I do this straight up, it's going to look like it's straight up to me, but it goes at an angle. Bam. So that's something to keep in mind. Mesh smooth. I really like this one. It can be. You can use it in any of the any sub-object mode, but like see, it just makes it smooth into a nice corner. Maybe I wanna Alt L, select the loop. Mesh smooth that. Get a nice round filleted edge. Did I do? Yeah, I did all this. Tessellate does the same thing as mesh smooth, except for no smoothing. It just kind of divides everything near it. That can be useful in some ways. Make planar. This is really best used in polygon mode, I'd say. So if I want to select by angle these two, just to keep my, oh screw it, never mind. If I want these all on one plane, you can see it's not on one plane. I can hit Z, and it makes it planar. Woohoo! Also, you can do make planar, but this is going to do it based on some weird thing. I'm not sure exactly what it is, why it does that. Just if you're baffled by how I'm undoing things, it's Control Z, and I didn't think I need to explain that, but just as a heads up. View align if you have polygons. So I hit view align. Looks like nothing changed except for like the smoothing groups did. But actually, just kind of moves it to so it's perfectly normal in my view. It changes how that looks. I think that's pretty trippy. It's fun. Grid align brings it straight to the grid, wherever the grid is. Relax, just relaxes it. Kind of smooths it out, kind of without any extra subdivision. You can do the window and change the amount, like the strength. Negative makes it like wah, and the iterations. You like that noise. Hide selected is really useful. If you want to just hide your polygons but not delete them, you can do that. Unhide all. Hide unselected. Whatever. Very useful. Not sure how to work that, but I'm sure it's very useful because it looks very useful. Let's go to edges. A lot of this is very simpler, and you can probably figure it out, but seems that I have lost this. I'm going to weld those together, see how I had extra vertices here, and it interrupted my flow. Still interrupting my flow. I'm just going to do a blanket weld, get rid of all those extra vertices I don't like. And is this flipped? Yes, this is the one that I flipped. That makes sense then. Because you can't weld flipped vertices. At least they can't be completely connected. See, only one side was connected. Now if I do this, oh jeez, there we go. So I selected that loop. Now I can either remove it and just get rid of all that. Same hotkey, control backspace. There's something unselected. Oh jeez, I'm not happy with this, but okay. Here we go again. You can remove it, you can split it, which is the same thing as break. Puts it into vertices. You can extrude. Same basic principle as the vertex mode. Up says direction. This is how wide it is. Weld. If you split it, you can weld it. It's basically self-explanatory. Chamfer. Oh man, how I love chamfer. So I select a loop. I can chamfer this, or I can select a loop here and chamfer this, and it creates a nice softer edge. And if I wanted to, I can go in into these and change how many segments it is, and see how round it gets. It's a very nice way of doing that. Bridge. I can either do this in. No, I'm gonna do this. No, never mind. I'm just gonna do it here. So I select these two edges, and I just bridge them together. This creates polygons between whatever you want. You can change how many segments it is, whatever. Another way to do that would be to do cap. I don't really go into border mode for much, except for capping, which is nice for not on planar borders. Don't do it on anything funky. So like if you have, it'll basically create what happens when you do this. It'll end up looking like that when you try and cap that, and it doesn't look good. Because it creates one polygon. Connect. Now this is one of the greatest things. If you do a ring select, or Alt R, also here, it selects all along a loop, the opposite of a loop, basically. You can also do an L along with that and just select basically everything. You can connect these edges and make a new loop. It's just beautiful because you get so much control over it. This is basically how I make my buildings, because this is great for making windows and so much else. Oh yeah, something to beware when you're chamfering. You get these nasty n-gons. It takes a lot of work to do it, to fix that. So if you don't need to work with this too much, try and chamfer at the end, I guess. Or chamfer all around, because it'll create triangles instead of n-gons if you do it all the way around, and those are easier to fix. Create shape. Oh yes, yes. This is great with loop selections and other selections, so like I don't know. In other words, if you create a shape, I already showed you this. Never mind. Then edit tries is the same. So that's poly box modeling. There's also something called like planar modeling and some other polygon modeling based. But this is really good for a lot of stuff, especially buildings, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be using that for. Uh, yeah, this is my first tutorial. This is pretty long. I really hope it worked this time. But have fun. Stay frosty, my friends. Hope you guys learned a lot. This is a really long goodbye. So, yeah. Just tell me if it's easy to follow. If you need any other information, if I left stuff out, just whatever.